You are about to listen to an extract from one of the Chavos novels, written for children aged 9+ by the author Anna McKann. Bobby Sniff. Moving towards the huddled mass, Distrito soon realised that it was Bobby Sniff. Although she couldn't see his face or upper body, all hidden under plastic, cardboard and shredded paper, she recognised the trainers and the old hold-all that held all his worldly possessions. There was no mistaking Bobby's cumbersome gigantic feet and those odd tennis shoes, one black, the other white. Whether this mismatch was by accident or design, she never knew. Although it didn't really matter. At least he had shoes. "Bobby," she whispered. "Bobby, it's me, Distrito." Ordinarily, she would have left him, assuming him to be sleeping, but something was nagging her. Bobby was just like most of the other street kids, a reject, abandoned, neglected and abused, a non-person looking for an identity. Some of the other kids had named him Bobby Sniff because he had this annoying and persistent habit of sniffing, snorting and wiping his nose on his sleeve. There had been several occasions when Distrito had found Bobby sniffing glue and anything else that would give him a high. "Takes away the hunger pains," Bobby would say. And it would for a while, but the come-down was devastating. Oh yes, it numbed the hunger pains, and all other feelings for that matter, but when the effects of the stuff wore off, it was far worse, leaving the abuser with an even greater appetite. The munchies, they called it. Then there were the other effects, such as the nausea, paranoia, and splitting headaches. Bobby's cycle of abuse began with sniffing shoe polish. Later it was aerosols and then anything solvent that he could get his hands on. That temporary high, that feeling of well-being was soon gone. Feeling worse, he began to look in the wrong places for something to ease the pain. He looked to grass, or porro as it was called, then later to harder drugs. As his body adjusted to the poisons that he was now pumping into it, he fell deeper and deeper into addiction. Stealing to feed his habit became his only option. Within an amazingly short time, Bobby had been transformed. The Bobby that Distrito had first met was becoming more aggressive. And as for paranoia, well, that was an understatement. He thought everyone was out to get him, seeing shadows in the shadows. She remembered the night he stumbled into the street shelter where she slept rough with the other kids. And Bozo had pinned him down. Bozo being the dog, not one of the kids. That must have been scary. But Bozo's protective instincts kicked in and, since that night, Bobby had deteriorated far more quickly than anyone else she had ever seen on the streets. She wondered what he was taking now. Crouched in the wretched doorway, Distrito felt fear as she went to shake Bobby gently. A dirty needle lay discarded by his side. A horrible, gurgling sound came from beneath the plastic sheet hiding his face. Pushing it aside, she gasped. Oh, Bobby's face was ghastly white. His eyes rolled to and fro, and his mouth was half open. White powder and saliva dribbled and frothed down his chin. He was shivering and seemed to have no control over his bodily functions. Distrito reeled backwards in shock and nearly broke her little dog's leg as she tumbled on him. Raggy yelped in pain. "Oh, Raggy man, what has Bobby done now? What do I do? Is he dead? Oh, no, he's not dead, stupid me. He can't be, 'cause he's making those horrible noises." For what seemed like an eternity, and now gripped with terror, Distrito continued to have a conversation with herself and Raggy, her dog, who was sitting in the opposite corner of the doorway, licking his wound. It hurt, but he knew Distrito was too involved with another crisis to bother about him and his sore leg. Her mind was working overtime. Should she go for help? Was there time? Was Bobby dying? She felt sure he was. Distrito looked around, and the street was empty and unusually quiet. Strange. The street was never empty. Where was help when you needed it? She thought of Bobby dying alone. It did not bear thinking about. She could not leave her friend, and she felt the courage to move forward and take his hand. It felt cold. Her head whirling. She hoped Bobby was just having a bad day. Maybe he was not dying at all, and would be all right. Yes, if he slept it off. Oh, I don't think so. Well, possibly a shock. Yes, a shock. She would shock him out of it. That's it. Slap him about the face a few times. Shock him out of it. Yes, that would do, wouldn't it? She shook him, slapped him, screamed at him, all to no avail. Her heart cried out. Would somebody please help her? Would somebody please help her friend Bobby? She slumped back and wanted to cry, but taking a deep breath, fought back the tears. She must be tough. Street kids don't cry. Oh, why? Oh, why? The anguish welled up inside her. Suddenly, she recalled a dream. Distrito had many dreams. Yes, she remembered the one where she found herself in heavenly places, when she saw all the children and how happy they were. And the older boy, trailing behind in the group, who knew her name. He had looked just like Bobby. Well, sort of a bit different, but still an uncanny resemblance. She was reminded of that look of peace in his eyes. How strange, how very odd. Was it some sort of premonition, perhaps? If so, she suddenly felt better. If Bobby died, was he going to a finer place? Raggy barked and startled her back into the land of reality. Her eyes met with Bobby's. Momentarily he seemed aware of her, and he smiled, a sort of crooked half-smile. She sort of knew he was going to be okay. Fixing his gaze on something beyond her, as though there was someone behind her, he found the strength to speak in some kind of garbled foreign language. Distrito neither understood nor dared to turn around. Perhaps she wasn't meant to understand. She watched as the muscles in his face relaxed, and the tensions and the emptiness left his eyes, and he whispered the name, Sweet Jesus. With a last surge of energy, he squeezed her hand. Then Bobby was gone. Closed eyes, she knew. He was dead. She wiped away the salty teardrops from her cheeks with the sleeves of her sweater. She was determined not to cry. Street kids don't cry. Raggy, her little dog, made enough noise to gain the attention, finally, of some passers-by. As soon as they arrived, she slipped away. 3 days later, Bobby Sniff was put to rest, and Distrito heard that Father Jose, the local priest, had conducted the ceremony. Another street kid gone.